All right, y'all. I just want to show you the official timeline of ChuckECheese, the official history of their logo, starting in 1977. This was their logo, and notice it's ChuckECheese's. It's kind of small, but from 77 to 81, it was ChuckECheese's. From 81 to 91, they blew it up. They blew it up to ChuckECheese's Pizza Time Theater. They blew it up from 81 to 91. Now, in 1984, they also had this logo going on till 91, ChuckECheese's, without the Pizza Time Theater. So I guess they were running both, but it was still ChuckECheese's. So here again, ChuckECheese's 89 to 93, and then ChuckECheese's Pizza. So they changed it up a little bit to 94. Now they changed the cartoon character a lot from 94 to 98. And I'm saying this timeline because this does not match my timeline at all. Very recently, there have been changes. 98 to 2004, ChuckECheese's. You can see ChuckECheese's all the way to 2019, ChuckECheese's. But they started to blend and merge to the ChuckECheese in 2017. It's almost as if reality has to do something, because back in 2017, I and many others were saying, what's this ChuckECheese's? It's always been ChuckECheese my entire life. This has never been ChuckECheese's. And we're looking at the stores and saying, this is crazy. And so, of course, they have to all of a sudden find that, I guess, for all the people that were digging up residual evidence. Moneybags actually is showing a video from 6 years ago that's showing a ChuckECheese store. Almost probably reality created this logo timeline just as a response to him calling it out. That's my theory on it anyway. So Pastor Sam Adams recently, if you don't know who Sam Adams is, he is like a crusader against the Mandela effect. He's very triggered by the idea that the Bible can change. It's a heresy. He just is really bothered by it. However, I was listening to this recent upload, and it's so funny because Pastor Adams will tell you in his own lips, out of his own mouth, that this has never been ChuckECheese's. It has always been ChuckECheese, and he knows without a doubt. So without further ado, let me play that portion of it. Let's see if you can hear it for yourself if I'm lying.
Servant of the devil, John Kerwin, and his lies and his blasphemous heresies. And hopefully in taking time once more to address and to refute the very devious and deceptive arguments that Kerwin raises along with others in this cult, an attempt to prove that the Bible has been and is being changed via this alleged phenomenon, will be able to prevent others out there, hopefully, from having their faith shipwrecked by this particular charlatan and the poison he's peddling for filthy lucre's sake. And perhaps this message will also wake up and maybe bring to repentance some folks who have already fallen into this entire delusion. After the message today, I will open the floor for questions or any observations that you guys may have on the topic. I do have a lot of material to get through in response to
I wish I could have been there, because I've got an observation.
The multi-pronged attacks being made against the Bible, not only by John Kerwin, but also by many other YouTube charlatans in the Mandela cult as well, our former friend Dr. Scott Johnson included. As most of you know, I have devoted several messages to refuting this deception already, but for quick review, for those few that have not heard about it, the Mandela effect is primarily a YouTube internet craze promoted initially by anti-Christian New Agers who, in desperately looking for a dramatic shift of reality and a shift of consciousness as mankind allegedly passes into their so-called New Age, claim that through this New Age paradigm or reality shift over the past decade and a half, many of the familiar elements of our perceived existence and even our history, including names, words, and historical events, have been or are being altered and are strangely not the same as they used to be, or so they claim. Many examples are suggested. For instance, many people have become fully convinced that Humphrey Bogart said, "Play it again, Sam," in his famous movie Casablanca. The fact is that Bogart never actually said that. Many have been fully convinced that the Monopoly Man once wore a monocle when he never did. that the penny in J.C. Penney used to be spelled like the coin ending in N-Y rather than N-E-Y. That McDonald's restaurants used to be spelled with M-A-C rather than just M-C. Meyer and Oscar Mayer used to be spelled M-E-Y-E-R rather than M-A-Y-E-R. The ChuckECheese Pizza used to be ChuckECheese's, things like this. That the Fruit of the Loom logo used to include a cornucopia. That the Berenstain Bears books were once spelled with an E-I-N on the end rather than A-I-N, etc., on and on ad infinitum. As I've said before, as one who grew up a block away from a big shopping mall in Des Moines, Iowa, and also his wife worked at J.C. Penney for a time when I was in college, Mary and I know full well, for a fact, beyond all doubt, that J.C. Penney always ended with E-Y on the end. There was never an apostrophe S on the end, but guess what? We'd still refer to it as pennies, even without the apostrophe S. Just like people do with Chuck E. Cheese, may I say. Our 5 children grew up in the 80s and 90s, and Mary and I spent many birthdays at Chuck E. Cheese Pizza, having to watch those.
All right. Are you hearing this? Mary and him, they spent many hours at Chuck E. Cheese Pizza.
Stupid, big mechanical animal characters perform on stage while we ate our pizza and our birthday cake before retiring to the arcade to waste more money there. And we know full well there was never an apostrophe S at the end of Chuck E. Cheese. But just like referring to J.C. Penney department store as pennies, we might call it Chuck E. Cheese in normal conversation. And so then the Mandelites get all bent out of shape and say, see, that's a residual effect left over from the Mandela effect. Because there used to be an apostrophe S on the end. That's a bunch of hogwash. It's just ridiculous. Hundreds of examples such as these, given in hundreds of YouTube videos.
All right. So you get the point. Pastor Sam Adams is obviously Mandela affected. And this is how, if he was aware of the historical timeline, he certainly wouldn't have said such things. He will change his testimony of what he remembers and what things are based on anything that coincides with his belief that the Bible cannot change and reality itself cannot change, because God would never allow that. So I wanted you to hear that, and the only reason, and I do have sympathy for him. I totally understand it. I get that this is earth-shattering to him to think that reality could change, to think that it's always been Chuck E. Cheese's when he knows full well, after raising his kids, that it's always been Chuck E. Cheese. He knows this, and he just admitted to you and everybody else that he knows this, and that we're the ones who are, coming up with this nonsense. Now, the only reason I'm talking about this today is because I went to Chuck E. Cheese today, and we go every year. I've been raising kids. We've been going to Chuck E. Cheese since the early 90s. I've raised 3 kids. I've adopted 2 more, got grandkids. We're at Chuck E. Cheese all the time. It's always been, for me, Chuck E. Cheese. Chuck E. Cheese's didn't pop up into my reality until 2017, 2016, late 2016 when I was Mandela affected. God opened my eyes up and I saw this stuff. Now, the cheeses in my reality might have popped up a little before then. I just hadn't seen it. But when I saw it, as soon as I saw it, I said, yeah, this is wrong. My wife saw it. My wife, who was there with me at all of these Chuck E. Cheese events, saw it and said, yeah, that's wrong. It's never been cheeses with an apostrophe S. So there's one. We've been living in this area since 99. We go to the same Chuck E. Cheese every year. And so that Chuck E. Cheese had cheeses, and there was a favorite restaurant that we'd go to, and we'd always pull out of that restaurant, and boom, right in front of that restaurant was Chuck E. Cheese. So we'd see the logo, and we'd see the apostrophe S, and I'd say almost every time we went there, it's like, oh, that just looks so crazy to me, seeing that apostrophe S. And she'd say, yeah, that did change. But that same restaurant today, I went there, and this same exact restaurant, this is the picture of it. It has changed. It has changed to Chuck E. Cheese. Today. I mean, last year, it was not. It was not this mouse, and it was not Chuck E. Cheese. It was Chuck E. Cheese's with a different mouse. That mouse that was there, that used to be there, wasn't in this reality whatsoever. It's never existed in this reality according to their logo history. I went in and talked to the manager, and I said, hey, did you change your sign from Chuck E. Cheese's to Chuck E. Cheese in the last year? Nope, it's always been Chuck E. Cheese. For as long as he can remember, it's always been Chuck E. Cheese. So I've bounced welcome Chuck E. Cheese world again. Or reality is just trying to cover up the fact that it's funny because this current logo, which it just changed to, matches Moneybags video from 6 years ago. It's like the same store, everything's identical 6 years ago. It's almost like reality updated my Chuck E. Cheese just as a rebuttal to Moneybags doing this video, because this video, the whole reason he did it, you can listen to it, he's showing this as residual evidence. Like, look, I found one. There's one store out there that exists that just says Chuck E. Cheese. It doesn't, one store out of the thousands that are out there, and it doesn't have the apostrophe S. Look, we found residual evidence. I did videos, it's in the Odyssey archives, where I said, why does the website say ChuckECheese.com and not ChuckECheeses.com? And I said, the Play Pass says Chuck E. Cheese. It doesn't say Chuck E. Cheese's. So that was my residual evidence. But for the most part, there was 1,000 stores out there and they all had the apostrophe S. We did not see these except for when we were trying to call out the residual evidence. Everything was basically this. But the mouse is completely different. That old mouse, it was a skinny mouse. It was a skinny mouse with a longer nose. That mouse apparently doesn't exist in this timeline at all. We have this floating head mouse, but it's not the mouse that was there last year. It was a skinny mouse. He didn't eat as much of his pizza. Longer nose, longer snout. Different animation completely. So I guess I'm only doing this video because it just blew my mind today when I went there and I saw that it was no longer Chuck E. Cheese's in my own neighborhood. And I just listened to Pastor Sam Adams talking about it, and I just heard Pastor Sam Adams tell everybody how strongly he remembered it never being Chuck E. Cheese's. Never did it have an apostrophe S. It always was Chuck E. Cheese. So too funny. And it's reality is trying to cover its tracks, or I just bounced into one that's a hybrid reality of sorts. I don't know, but I guess Pastor Sam's on our side on this one. He would have to agree with us. He just did agree with us. So thank you, Pastor Sam. All right, have a good one and God bless.